Hey everybody, welcome back. Welcome to Baka Takfosist. So, just got back from Moab. Really fun weekend. Moab, Utah, if you're not familiar. It's kind of an outdoor destination for a lot of things. We're into the ATVs, side-by-sides. So we went on two really cool rides. We went out to the wind tunnels and we went to Fins and Things. If you're familiar with the area, then you'll know what those rides are. But Fins and Things, I hadn't been on. That was a rocky ride. It was a blast. We had so much fun. But yeah, pretty grueling, let's put it that way. So today, I wanted to talk about something that's been on my mind a lot the last couple of years, and that's retiring. Excuse me. It's not really something I thought much about until probably 59, 60 years old. And then all of a sudden it was like, this is starting to sneak up on me. Am I going to be able to retire? When I was hurt about a month ago, well, I was hurt for almost 2 months. It was pretty brutal. I was out with my back and it was rough, but I watched a ton of YouTube videos. And something I got into was these guys, around my age, let's say mid 50s to late 60s, early 70s, talking about retiring. You have this idea in your head, how much money you got to have. And I don't feel like I have enough saved. Now, part of the problem with me is I own my own business. I have no match. I have a brother who's an accountant and he's had a match for decades now. And I guarantee he's got much more money than I do. Because that match is a huge thing. It's like getting 100% return on your money instantly. We only have what we have saved. Now, one thing I'll say right off the bat, if you're younger, you're in your 20s, start now. I did not start until less than a month before my 34th birthday. So I've been doing this for 28 years. When you consider that time frame, I feel pretty good with what we've been able to sock away and how it's grown. Compound interest is an amazing thing. And time, it's all about time. My youngest son started, I think, at 19. He's gonna be a multi-millionaire by the time he's in his 50s. And I know inflation, I get all that, but he's gonna be so sad. And if you're that age, even your 20s, 30, whenever actually, get going on it. I met a guy in Denver years ago. I was doing a job out there. I was still in my 30s. I was probably like 37, 38 years old, I'm guessing. And there was a manager working there. I think he was 59, which seemed so old to me at the time. Now that's behind me. But we started talking finances because at that point I'd been investing for about 3 years, 4 years, something like that. Knew my stuff a little bit. I'm no expert, but I know the ropes, investing, and I try to diversify all that stuff. But he came to me after we had this discussion. He says, "Do you think it's too late for me to start?" And I was like, "Why would it be too late? Anything you put away is still money you're going to have. You may have to work till 67, 68, 69, 70 because you waited so long. But if you start putting even a couple $100 a month away now at 59, that's $2,400 a year. So if you did that for 10 years, that's $24,000 on its own. Let's say, the rule of 72 is you divide it by 72, your return rate. So if you get a 7% return, essentially it's 10 years to double your money. You get 10%, it's 7 years to double your money. Now, my mutual funds, I have quite a few different ones. We have several IRAs. I would say we've averaged 8.5%, 9% for the last 30-something years. I hear people talk about, you can make, 15, 18, 20%, and maybe you can. I've had mutual funds that do 20 and 25% returns, but then the next year they'll do 2. Anyway, what I told him is, let's say you get that up to $45,000 or $50,000 in 10 years. Say you can put away a little more. That's an extra couple $100 a month you can take out on top of your Social Security, which if you're living on Social Security alone, I don't think you're going to live so great. I know how much my Social Security is going to be, and I don't think I could live on that. Now, I'm going to have everything paid off before I retire. My house will be paid off, hopefully in the next 2 or 3 years, because I'm not having payments like that makes it so much tougher. Then you really do need to have a lot of money. But the point is, these guys whose videos I watched, they were all in the $300,000 to $600,000 range of what they had saved, which to me, if you just ask me before I watch these videos, I'd be like, yeah, that's a nice sum of money. I mean, you know, $300,000 is a lot of money. $600,000 is a lot of money. But if you retire at, say, 65 and you hope to live another 20 years, you know, most experts will say you should take out around 4% every year. So if you got 100 grand saved, that's only $4,000. You got 500,000 saved, that's 20,000. Now that's a big difference on top of just Social Security. You know, if you can take out an extra $1,700 a month on top of your Social Security, or if you're lucky enough to have a pension, that's a big deal. But these guys talked about, all these guys were debt-free when they did this. And every one of them was like, this is actually very doable. You know, they don't live extravagant lifestyles, but they don't live like paupers. It seemed like every one of them had a decent house, did things, you know, nothing extravagant. There weren't month-long trips to Europe, but I don't see why you wouldn't be able to do maybe a cruise for a week every year. And, you know, we're into the camping. Our trailer will be paid off. So, like I said, everything will be paid off when I retire. That's in sight. I should have done it years ago. So if you're younger, listen, I'm no expert, but that much I can tell you is true. Save, save, save into good IRAs, Roth IRA. Study the difference between a Roth IRA and a traditional IRA. I'm not giving any tax advice here. I'm not giving any investment advice here. I'm just talking about my experience. But a Roth IRA is different in when you withdraw the money, you get to keep it because you've already paid your taxes on it. I have a traditional IRA as well. When I withdraw that money, I will pay my tax rate on that. And like I said, I'm not giving any advice, so go study, go talk to an accountant, a lawyer, whoever you got to talk to get good, proper advice. Please hear me on that. This is my experience. But these guys gave me a lot of hope because I'm still going to work full-time for another 2 to 3 years, I think. 65 for sure. I've got a little over 2.5 years till I'm 65. Then for sure, I'm going to at least go way back on my work. I'm getting off the road in the next year and a half. We're doing more work in Utah, and we will do some small jobs here and there. So between Social Security and what we have saved, what we can withdraw every month out of those savings, and then some side hustle jobs. It doesn't have to be a lot. You know, we might just go paint a home once a month or something and make a couple $1,000. And on top of the other things, I am now convinced that we can live comfortably. Odds are we're going to downsize this house. As far as I'm concerned, is way too big. It's, you know, our kids were all raised here. We had 4 kids, so it's 6 bedroom, 4 bath, big house. This is not any kind of brag. I'm just saying we don't need a big house like that. So I'm hoping to sell the house, pay cash for a little bit smaller house, and also be able to put a little money away from that as well, if you're in a similar situation. In fact, I know for a fact one of these guys was in a similar situation. He had a house that he just, you know, him and his wife decided it's just too big for us. We don't need all this space. I don't want all these stairs. My knees are already bad. So I'd like to get a 1 level, a little bit smaller, and pay cash for it. With the equity in this house and getting close to paid off, that's doable too. So, you know, in case you haven't seen any of these people I'm talking about that I watched, I'm so sorry about this, but it is what it is. Go go check it out. It gave me a lot of hope. I have always thought, well, you got to have $2, $3, $4 million socked away to really live comfortably. You know, that way you could take, well, say you had $2 million and you took out 5% a year. What did I say? 2 million, 10% is 200,000. So 5% would be $100,000 a year. If you took out 4%, it'd be 80,000 a year. Well, if you can't live pretty good on that with your Social Security, this is assuming you're debt free. I would highly recommend. Look, I'm a Dave Ramsey fan. I think in some things he's a little pie in the sky, but most of his advice is very solid. And the part about being debt free, he's right on about that. I wasted so much money in my 20s, 30s, and 40s buying vehicles, switching them out too often, just not saving enough. You know, it is one thing that I've done diligently for, what did I say? So 28 years. Every month the money comes out. And as I could afford, I think I started at $50 a month coming out. Pretty soon I went to 100 and then 200. And then we, you know, as you can afford it, you get better jobs, you're making better money as you get older. You put more in. And it's really fun watching it grow. The first few years, it's kind of like when you're paying a big loan, like a house. The first few years, all you're paying is interest. So you're not seeing your balance come down very fast. Now, when I make a payment, it's like 90% of my payment goes to the principal and only 10% to interest. It's very similar watching money grow in the early stages. So here's how we started our retirement. My father-in-law inherited some gold coins from his parents when they passed away. And he gave each of his daughters 2 of these gold coins. Now I think gold's like $4,000 or $5,000 an ounce, so I would have $10,000 for those. Well, at the time, I think gold was $250 or maybe it was $400 an ounce. I don't remember exactly. I got $500 or $800. I went to Janus Investments, and they cashed them in for me, and that's how I started my first IRA. So putting $50 a month in, you know, in the first year, that's $600. So after a couple of years, I looked, you know, and with the initial investment, it was a couple $1,000s. But when you're 36, 37 years old, it's like, wow, that's not a lot of money. But after, I'd say about 7 or 8 years, then you really start to see it. Now, there are down years. Of course there are. I've tried really hard to diversify. I don't just have like high risk stock funds. I have bond funds. I actually have some mutual funds that are just money market accounts, but I know I'm going to get 4% on them. I'm not going to lose ever on those. There are years, you know, really bad years like 2008, 2000, where my accounts lost value. But if you try to time the market, you're going to really struggle. I've seen a lot of studies on this about if you're trying to time in and out, you're going to miss a lot of up days. Yeah, you're going to be in there for some down days. But you're there for the up days. You got to ride it. There's a term, oh, what's it called? It just flew it out of my head. Anyway, you put money in every month. Some months you're going to get, you know, X amount of shares for your, say, $200. And then other months you're going to get more shares, less shares, depending on the price of the shares. You know, if they've dropped, you're going to get more shares. So when it comes back up again, you're sitting pretty. Now, I did try to time the market one time. I pulled, I think it was $50,000 out of one of my IRAs. I just had a feeling. Sometimes you can kind of feel that the market's due for a pullback. I feel like that right now, by the way. Again, not advice, just my gut. I feel like, so I felt like that, and I pulled like 50 grand out, and the market crashed within about 2 months of that. Now, I sat there for a long time with that money before I put it back in, and when I did, I slowly put it back in. I don't know if I came out ahead on that. There's no point in second guessing it because it's done. But now, with the amount that's in there now, and it's not some giant amount, you know, it's a nice chunk of cash. and I'm proud that I've been able to put that away. But now it's kind of fun watching it. I don't go look a lot, you know, a few times a year. I might balance out things. You know, if one fund's getting too big and it's a bit more risky, at 62, I don't want to be taking huge risks. You know, I don't want to have a crash come along and I've got 90% of my money in some sort of high risk stocks and I lose half my value or something. I don't have all those years to catch back up again. So I am slowly, as I get older, making it a little less risky every year. More bonds, more money markets, things like that. To each his own. Do your research, find out what works for you. But it's fun watching it, and it's fun finding out that there are people out there living good lives that don't have $4 million saved up for retirement. They got 3, 4, 500,000 saved up for retirement, which, like I said, is still a big chunk of money. Impressive. You know, I'm not going to say how much I've got saved, but I am not in that $3, $4 million range. Let's just say that. Nowhere close. But I feel comfortable now that in 2 or 3 years, I can definitely retire and we can live a good life. And like I said, being debt-free is the key to that, because if you got a $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 mortgage on your house, that changes everything. So anyway, I just thought it was kind of a fun bunch of videos that I watched, and for those of you that follow me, you know I bounce around to different subjects. I've done several of the videos about you know, the Mormon culture, leaving the church, raising kids in it. By the way, that one got a lot of comments, mostly agreeing with me, but a few of you disagreed, and that's okay. I can only speak from my experience. I'm not a liar. If I said it, it happened. Now, you don't know me, so you don't have to believe me. That's okay. But anyway, yeah, that was our experience, and it was tough. But I like to mix it up, and this is something I think about a lot. It's something I kind of enjoy. I like going into my IRAs and, you know, changing things around and fiddling with it a little bit. And when I do something right, you know, it's kind of fun to watch it take off. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope your life is going really good. You know, like I said, we had such a fun weekend in Moab. I did a little short video. I think it was 3 or 4 minutes a couple days ago about one of our rides. It was the Fins and Things ride. And I actually videoed some of the riding, which is kind of hard to do when I had my wife film some of it and I did some of it. When it was really rough, she had to film because it was, you got to keep your hands on the steering wheel. But I feel very blessed that we got to go do those rides. We have such great friends. We actually had a friend today on the way back from camping that had just a horrible experience. His whole vehicle, trailer, ATV, everything caught fire and was destroyed. And luckily, he and his family are okay. I've called and checked on him, but wow, what a horrible way to end a fantastic weekend. So if you watch this, man, I'm thinking about you. Hope everything's good. They're insured, so everything should work out, but what a nightmare. But yeah, fantastic weekend we had, and I just love getting out. It's one of our favorite things to do. So I'll probably do some more videos on that as well. Norway, we're heading to Norway later this summer too, and I will definitely be doing a bunch of videos from there. So for now, tack for denna gang. Vi snackas igen snart. Hope all of you are having just a fantastic weekend. I hope you had a great weekend. I hope you enjoy watching these videos. Thank you so much for the thumbs up, subscribing, commenting. I'm pretty sure I've kept up on all the comments. Now, when somebody replies to a comment on a comment, I don't always see those. I haven't quite figured out how to get that to pop to the top of my list when I go in to look at new comments. So if I didn't get to one where you commented on somebody else's comment, I apologize. Just comment on the video and then I will see it on your own. But, you know, there was some back and forth between other people too, so which is cool. Having so much fun doing this. I will talk to you again soon. Peace. Love.